Tonight, somewhere on your couch, a person is eating potato chips from a family-size bag they promised themselves they would only open halfway. What they almost certainly do not know is that the entire chain of events leading to that moment began in 1853 with a chef who was trying to ruin someone's evening. The story starts at Moon's Lake House, a resort in Saratoga Springs, New York, where wealthy people went to eat large meals and complain about them. The chef was a man named George Crumb, talented, proud, and not particularly interested in being told that his food was wrong. One evening, a guest sent back his fried potatoes. Too thick, too soggy, not crispy enough. Crumb sent out a thinner batch. The guest sent them back again. By the third time the potatoes returned to the kitchen, Crumb had run completely out of patience. What he did next was intended as a punishment. He sliced the potatoes as thin as paper, fried them until they would shatter if you looked at them wrong, and salted them so aggressively that no reasonable person would consider eating them. The idea was that the customer would receive something completely inedible and have nothing left to complain about. It was culinary spite, carefully plated, and served with what was almost certainly a completely straight face. The customer loved them. Other guests tried them and wanted more. Within weeks, Saratoga chips were the most requested item on the menu, and within a few years they had spread to restaurants across the northeastern United States. Whether the story happened exactly this way is debated by historians. The records are surprisingly murky. But true or not, the legend survived because it's a perfect story. A man tries to make something terrible and accidentally invents something people can't stop eating. For the next several decades, potato chips existed almost entirely as a restaurant food, because producing them at home required a level of precision slicing that most people were not willing to perform. That changed in the 1920s, when a salesman named Herman Lay began selling bags of chips out of the trunk of his car across the American South. Lay built a regional distribution network that eventually merged with the Frito Company in 1961 to become Frito-Lay, which today produces dozens of snack brands and generates billions of dollars in annual revenue. The potato chip had gone from a single item on a resort menu to a continental industry in roughly 3 generations, which is fast by any standard. The reason it spread so quickly is simple. Humans turned out to be remarkably bad at eating chips in moderation. By the 1980s, chip companies had a different problem. The product was already popular. The question was how to make it genuinely impossible to stop eating. To answer that, they turned to food scientists, and food scientists turned to the human brain. What they discovered was that the human brain had been preparing for this moment for hundreds of thousands of years. It evolved in an environment where salt and fat were difficult to find. Encountering both at the same time was significant enough that the brain treated it as a reward, releasing dopamine and motivating the animal to keep eating for as long as the source lasted, because in the wild, that kind of resource would not be available for long. The environment changed. The brain never got the memo. It still behaves as though the supply might disappear, even when the supply is a warehouse in New Jersey producing 10,000 bags an hour. Food scientists formalized this into something called the bliss point, which refers to the precise balance of ingredients, primarily salt, fat, and in some products sugar, at which a food produces the maximum possible pleasure. Hit below it and the product tastes flat. Exceed it and it becomes overwhelming. Land exactly on it and the product becomes remarkably difficult to stop eating. Chip manufacturers spent decades and serious research budgets calibrating their products to that point with the kind of precision that, in a different context, would be called engineering. The result is a product that was accidentally invented, then industrialized, then scientifically optimized to exploit the way the human brain evaluates reward. George Crumb had no way of knowing any of this in 1853. He was angry about a dinner guest, not laying the groundwork for a global industry worth roughly $35 billion annually. But the chain runs in a straight line from that kitchen in Saratoga Springs to the neuroscience labs of the 20th century, to the bag currently open on your coffee table. One chef's anger produced a snack. That snack became an industry. That industry spent a century learning exactly how human pleasure works and then building a product designed to outlast it. George Crumb thought he was ending an argument over dinner. Instead, he started one we're still losing.